2023 is when you were also looking to enter into some type of an agreement with Podcast One, correct?
Kast was, yes.
On May the 23rd, 2023, Live One announced that it had entered into a letter of intent to acquire certain assets of Kast Media. Did that go through?
Eventually, the deal with Podcast One did get signed.
And what kind of deal was that?
It's a finder's fee structure. We provided the contract to you.
What assets of Kast Media did Live One obtain?
Certain shows that made the decision to take a deal with Podcast One and to move their show over to Podcast One.
Do you recall which shows those were?
Well, I don't have the list in front of me.
As of the date of the filing of bankruptcy, March 13 of 2024, did Kast Media Inc. owe Podcast One or Live One any money?
As of the date of the petition, did Kast owe Podcast One or Live One any money? No, I don't believe so.
All right. Now, the arrangement that you described to me earlier, you said Podcast One distributes the 3 O&Os, correct?
Yes.
And then you have the 70-30, 70-30, and 50-50 splits on the 3 O&O podcasts, correct?
Yes.
Why is that arrangement with Podcast One advantageous to Kast Media?
We went through a pretty rigorous due diligence process with them in regards to being our distribution and monetization partner. As I'm sure you understand, Kast has spent 6 or 7 years on the other end side of that fence, so we know how to kick the tires. We know how to find a good partnership, and we believed them to be the best option for Kast in the deal that they made with us.
B, 278,400 of the upfront shares, equivalent to 34,800 shares, shall be issued in the name of the escrow agent and deposited with the escrow agent pursuant to the terms of the escrow agreement. You see that?
Are you still on 0007?
Yep.
Yeah, B, 278,400 of the upfront shares, equivalent to 34,800 shares, shall be issued in the name of the escrow agent and deposited with the escrow agent.
And that's Kast's, right?
I believe that this is the amount. Yeah, I believe that this would be.
That's Kast's.
That this would be Kast once the escrow, once it comes out of escrow.
Go to your bankruptcy petition, sir.
Exhibit 2?
Yep. Show me where in your bankruptcy petition that you list these 34,800 shares worth $278,400 as an asset of Kast Media Inc.
What's the question?
Show me where in your bankruptcy petition you list 34,800 shares worth $278,400 as an asset of Kast Media.
You want me to go through it?
Yep.
Okay.
Take all the time that you want, and you tell me the page.
Well, I believe
that
that
is.
they may not be in here.
Okay? I've looked, and I can't find where you listed these shares of stock worth $278,400 as an asset. Do you know why they were omitted?
I don't know why they were omitted, but obviously I think probably because the valuation of them would be rather tricky to come up with because they're not liquid and the stock price is fluid.
Well, this deal tells us it's 34,800 shares, $278,400. Right?
That would be if the stock were priced at $8 a share.
Okay.
But of course, as you know, because we provided you with the escrow agreement, they're subject to, I believe, 2-year lockup provisions, and nobody has any idea what the price of the stock is going to be 2 years after that date.
We'll get there. But whatever it is, the liquid nature of the stock, you didn't even list the number of shares, did you? Regardless of the price of it, you didn't.
I don't
list
see the shares listed on this form,
Okay.
but I haven't looked for them. But I believe that they're not there.
Okay. And those shares are deposited with an escrow agent, correct?
I believe that's what the contract states. I never followed up to make sure that they were deposited.
I just want to make sure that I understand, though. There was never an acquisition of Kast assets by Podcast One, correct?
They ended up labeling the deal a finder's fee deal instead.
Not an asset purchase agreement, correct?
They ended up labeling it a finder's fee deal.
Did Podcast One or Live One ever say they didn't want your name associated with their companies? Or that you weren't allowed to tell people that you were associated with Live One or Podcast One?
No, they didn't say that.
And I don't know if I have an extra copy of this. I'll give you my copy if you want to see it. We don't have to attach it as an exhibit. The lockup agreement, I'll show you. It says all of this discussion that we've been having about these shares, their value in Podcast One, it's locked down until September of 2025, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's generally what this contract states.
I'm sorry. What does your bankruptcy plan say about Kast's intentions with respect to the lockdown and the assets that will be locked down until September 2025? Does it speak to it at all?
No.
All right. Does the name Foley Schechter Ablavitsky LLP sound familiar to you as the escrow agent of the 34,800 shares of common stock?
The name sounds familiar to me.
All right. And just so that the record is clear, the stock, we keep kind of using terms interchangeably here, Podcast One, Live One, et cetera, et cetera. The shares of stock are in Courtside Group, Inc., correct?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that Kast's been on the other side of the deal, like the one that you've got with Podcast One now, right? Remember your kicking the tires analogy you gave me? We know how to kick the tires?
Yeah, Kast was a distributor and a monetizer with an in-house sales team of podcasts for a number of years.
Okay. When does Podcast One owe Kast money?
You have the contracts. I would have to go back to them to see what our payment terms are.
I think it's net 60, isn't it? I flagged it. Revenue split. I'll show it to you. Podcaster will in aggregate receive 70% podcaster share of 100% of the gross revenue, with the remainder to be paid retained by company. Company agrees to pay podcaster share for outstanding receivables 60 days after invoicing the applicable advertising clients and or sponsors for said receivables. Since you entered into this agreement on November the 14th of 2023, has Podcast One failed to pay you? Pay Kast?
Have they failed to pay Kast?
Yes.
They haven't failed to pay Kast.
Okay. Like you failed to pay Brian Last and Jim Cornette to the tune of $250,000, right?
What's the question?
Objection, argumentative.
My question is, Podcast One has not done to Kast what Kast did to Arcadian, Vanguard, and Jim Cornette. Is that a fair statement?
Objection, relevant, argumentative, badgering.
So the question is, has Podcast One met its payment obligations with
Yes.
Kast?
Yes.
Yeah, they have.
And you acknowledge,
I believe so.
You acknowledge that Kast did not meet its payment obligations to Brian Last, Arcadian, Vanguard, and Jim Cornette.
Correct.